Good.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Wickers. I'm the mayor of Cottonwood Heights, and today is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. This is this Cottonwood Heights City Council work session. We are having some electrical issues in our work session room, so we've moved our meeting to here today to the council chambers. The first item of business on our agenda this evening is a review of our business meeting for this tonight. And we will start with a pledge of allegiance. I've asked our city manager, Jared Gerber, to lead us in that pledge. The agenda, it does list the proclamation. There are not any proclamations, so we'll go straight to our city council committee reports. And then we'll have a citizen comment period. We have two standing quarterly reports this evening, and the first one will be from our police department, and our police chief and Candy will both add to that report for us. And then we'll also have our public works department report from our public works director, Matt Shep. You're prepared, it looks like, Matt, right? I knew it. Okay. And then we have four legislative items for the council to consider this evening. And we'll start with consideration of resolution 2025-02, approving agreement with Governance Sciences Group, Inc., DBA flash vote for public input polling. This is actually a staff report, so we're not going to talk about it right now, but we'll discuss it further in just a few minutes. Item 7.2 is consideration of resolution 2025-03, approving agreement with H.W. Lochner for design services. And if I recall correctly, Matt, this is one of the items we talked about at the retreat that we would go forward with the design. Is that right? Is Lochner one of those? Yeah, why don't we do that right now? Because we won't discuss again in the business meeting.
Yeah, so this is the Highland Trail Phase 3. And the extents of this portion of the trail go from Fort Union to I-215, predominantly on the west side of Highland Drive. And it essentially is a trail connector that connects from where the East Jordan Canal study leaves off to the Highland Trail that connects up to here at City Hall. This improves some of the aesthetics of the entrance to the city along Highland Drive, as well as looks at the pedestrian safety aspect along that section, and then through the intersection of Highland and La Cresta, which has been kind of or has some logistical issues with it as it stands now, and stands to be improved by this design. And this is a preliminary design. This only gets us 30% of the way there. Essentially, this is what an environmental analysis to see what right-of-way we need to acquire if we were to move forward with the project, and look at some design alternatives for both the intersection as well as the trail.
Great.
I do have a couple questions, if I may. It was described in the packet as resolving traffic issues at the intersection of Highland and La Cresta Drive. And so I'm trying to understand, it's being called a trail, but is there a motivation to resolve some kind of vehicular traffic issues?
So that La Cresta and Highland intersection, because it's essentially two intersections that take the place of one intersection. And so how it stands right now, there are, I guess, some pedestrian risks by just putting in a ramp and letting pedestrians cross there due to traffic that's coming off of Highland, due to traffic that's coming out of that neighborhood. And so the focus of the design is getting the trail to the 30%, but then since it crosses across that La Cresta front, or across that La Crusta intersection. The project also looks at resolving the issues that are ongoing there as well.
Well, the other piece that I don't quite understand is since there's already a frontage road, and I don't understand what acquisition might be possible within that area that we're looking at.
So the acquisition is less along that Highland frontage area and more along in front of Whole Foods and that area where those businesses extend basically to the sidewalk as they are right now. If we put in an 8-foot trail, there's going to be some right of way that's
Kind of into the parking lot,
Yeah,
then that east edge of the parking lot, is that
yeah,
the idea?
that's where we're looking at for the right of way acquisition.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
And can you tell me a little bit more about the aesthetics of what we'd be pursuing as far as coming off the freeway?
So and this is something that, you know, we would bring back to council for council input, but essentially just, so there is that frontage there. It's a quite a wide frontage road and then a pretty narrow sidewalk there. So it would be expanding that sidewalk, slimming down that frontage road a little bit, and then adding a landscaping plan to that trail area so that, you know, right now there's basically trees that are surrounded by a bunch of brick, but that would be something that would be more landscapable and maintainable, where right now I think most of those trees have seen the better part of their lives, but we're looking for something sustainable that we can that can be maintained into the future. And that, like I said, that would be something that we would generate some ideas with Lochner and then bring those back to council for your guys' input and consideration.
So
Great.
my understanding as well is that we could kick this down the road a couple weeks if we wanted to study it more, but also that the dollars that we're talking about are already budgeted and accounted for. So we're not asking for additional budget.
Yeah, the money that we need to match, we can take from our engineering budget items. So those are funds that are allocated for this, and yeah, it's ready to move forward if that's the direction that you guys choose to go.
And I understand that the funds that we're talking about from your budget are to the tune of around $10,000.
So that's the required match. Lochner, so the bid that came in was a little bit above that. So we're about $35,000 that we are contributing to and getting $130,000 paid for through the grant.
And that's strictly to do a 30% design?
Yes.
If I may step in real quick. Yes, 30% design, excuse me, property identification. And part of that also is to property acquisition as well. If we identify, once we've gone through this process and come up with, you know, a layout and things we like as a council, then part of that money is also for property acquisition and working in that as well. So there's a lot of things mixing up in this whole thing. So we don't anticipate the design to go as much as what's there. We're working on scaling it and that. But right now, this is the bid. This is what we have, and so we're proposing that. We have the money in the budget to cover it, what the remaining portion. So things are in there.
I'd bring to your attention, and you'll know this, Matt. So that's a regional enough road that there are Salt Lake County Public Works corridor preservation funds available for something like this project.
Yes, correct.
So yeah, just to make sure that we would be ready to apply for those.
Yes, and in order to apply for those, we have to have what we're buying.
Correct.
I mean, we've run into that before where we've, you know, designed something and then had to go outside of that to chase more funding. So, yeah.
Okay.
So this readies us for those grant applications, the extra dollars. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
we have to be through design to get to then, be awarded the grant for the corridor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Very good. Okay. And I don't know if you're going to have Ben address as well. Item 7.3 is consideration of resolution 2025-04, approving the first amendment to an agreement with CMT Technical Services, Inc. for engineering design services.
Yeah, so this is a project to rebuild the Stephenson neighborhood. So we had CMT, they did the engineering design and construction management for the Town Drive area that we rebuilt this last year. So this is just an amendment to their contract that adds the Stephenson subdivision onto that as well. So that's Stephenson, Dell, Carroll, Cardiff, those streets in that neighborhood. Redoing the asphalt, curb and gutter replacement as needed. But essentially the design for the the construction of that project to be done at a later date.
Questions or comments from the council? Okay, great. Thank you, Ben and Matt. And then the last item for this evening is item 7.4, consideration of resolution 2025-05, approving and ratifying the appointment of a city recorder. Jared, you want to address that at all?
Yeah, this is just what I brought up at the retreat, but we have talked with Tiffany and she has agreed to accept the position. So this is ratifying that position as a city recorder, pulling the duty from out from under Barbara Higgins as the HR director and kind of separating those duties a little bit just to make it more effective and efficient. We will have a closed session. So if you've got any questions or anything we want to go through.
Okay. Questions, council? Okay. And then just to make sure, there are not any minutes to approve on the consent calendar. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. We will move on to item number 3. So we are excited to have the Salt Lake County Health Department with us here today. So Dorothy, I don't see Tom. Has Tom officially moved on to his new capacity?
He has. Yeah,
Okay.
he has. He's with the county council now as a policy advisor. So,
Yeah.
but I have in his stead a few of my team as well. So
Yeah.
Nick Rupp is our public information officer. Heather Edwards is our associate director. And I think you've met Whitney before. She oversees our coalitions, and I know she's made presentations in the past.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your time, taking the time for me to introduce myself and our department, which I'm sure many of you know of the health department. I'm new to the position as the executive director as of last June, but I've worked for the health department for 37 years. And a lot of my time was spent in the program piece of things, so connecting to the residents, providing services. And as I work now in the executive director's office, making that connection to our staff or to the people we provide services to communities is so important. That's how we know, that's how people know to call us. As I go out to meetings, oftentimes people see the health department as a county service and not as their city service. So we are the health department for every incorporated city within Salt Lake County, and it's important for us to make that connection to all of you so you know where to call. If you're seeing problems in your community, to connect with us so that we can help you. The health department has nearly 500 employees. We have 4 different divisions. So environmental health, and I know environmental health is one of those places with our code enforcement. So with the police department, we work very closely because we work with your code enforcement officers. They cover water quality, hazardous waste, food protection, again, those licensed establishments in your communities. And you have a resource list of all the different things that we do. Air quality, so if there's questions that you get from residents around air quality, certainly all of those connection points are important to remember. Our clinical services provide those immunizations that, all of us became very well aware of during COVID, but there's lots of other foundational immunizations that we provide. And we do a lot of outreach now. That's a lesson learned from COVID, is that we don't wait for people to come to us. We're out in the community. We do a lot of events with aging populations in senior centers. If you have opportunities within the community where you have that need, certainly reach out to us for those kinds of things. We do home visitation through kind of the traditional public health, going to people's homes, providing services and connecting them. And then we do our epidemiologies and population health, that's case investigation and surveillance. And then our community health, which Whitney is a part of, and a huge part of that is our coalition. Some of the things, we have a lot of resources since COVID. There's been a lot of emphasis on connecting to data, having more timely data, and informing and letting communities have access to that information. And I think Whitney and their team has done a great job of showing some of that information, but reminding you of those resources. So we have a Healthy Salt Lake dashboard. We're going to show you where you go for it, but you can actually drill down to your specific city based on the dashboard information. Sorry. While he's setting that up, I know that Cottonwood Heights also is involved with the Utah Wellbeing Project. I'm sure you saw a lot of the information coming out of that. But from that survey, it identified air quality, water supply, and water quality as being top things within your community as citizens are worried about. So again, if there's opportunities for that, okay. So the Healthy Salt Lake, and you can access this through our link to our the health department website. He's going to drive you through it.
Hey, Matt, will you turn his mic on, please?
Scroll all the way down to Census Place City. There's a curated dashboard specifically for Cottonwood Heights. And then it pulls up by topic. And is there one in particular, Dorothy, you'd like to?
I think just
see?
scrolling through, so you can see this is all information that's coming out of data that's collected from healthcare systems. And so you can, coalition work I think is important. And Whitney, I think you're working mainly on substance use issues, but this is something coalition work can look at, assess, and determine whether these are focus areas that are important to your community.
And
I think
most indicators will compare you to Utah as a whole and then the United States as a whole. For example, adults who have had a routine checkup, 71.7% of Cottonwood Heights residents have reported a recent routine checkup. That's 2022 data. That puts you right about in the middle for Utah, but unfortunately, you can see in the red, not so great for the United States as a whole. There's a variety of topics from chronic disease to mental health, stratified by age.
Sorry, this is census data?
It's a variety of data sources. The geographic boundaries are based on census data. The health impact data comes from 5 or 6 different databases.
and they're cited on the website and when they were pulled, and I believe it was 2022. So that's the most.
There's a variety of dates depending on the data source, but most are 2022 or 3.
But truthfully, it's a great source of information in terms of prioritizing things that maybe you're seeing in your community. If we have obviously the resources that if you're interested in that further down, we can have staff connect with you to sit down and kind of drill through that information. So that is a resource that we have available and something that we're working to have more cities aware of. We just went through a community health assessment, which was for the whole county, but obviously there are many citizens in Cottonwood Heights that participated in that. And from that community health assessment, we will develop a community health improvement plan. Our hope, as we hopefully make more people aware of these resources, is that you don't feel like you have to do this on your own, that if you're looking for information or data about things that you think are of issues within your community, that you're connecting to us. We are that resource for you, along with other things as well. I think some of the things that we find, it's hard for citizens to know what services we provide. So if you think of ways that we can more intentionally interact with all of you so you know what services we provide. I know in the past we've provided newsletters, monthly newsletters. We've had health department employees attend council meetings throughout the county. Much like you have public works, just knowing that health that's in our lane, and if there's things that we can be doing to help you navigate some of the things you're seeing in your community, just let us know. I think every community is going to be different. My goal is to go out to all of the different cities, not just once. And it's not a relationship with me, it's a relationship with our department. Yeah.
Quick question. Are you connected, all of your service connected to 211?
They are, yes.
They are?
Nick is but we're part of that. We also have a resource list that we put together that's also on our website. We are connecting with the police department and code enforcement officers in February. We're going out to their meetings to make them aware of that resource list. During our community health assessment, we met with code enforcement officers throughout the county, and one of the things that they cited was it's hard to know where you can get different services. And so that resource list is a great opportunity to let people know about the things that we have available. So if you have any questions, Dorothy Adams, my contact information is there, but we look forward to that opportunity. We want you to know we are your health department, and we're here to help you out if you see things in your community.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for the council?
Well, I would just like to make the comment that, one of the unique challenges that we have that affect people's health is the gravel pit operation on the extreme east edge of Cottonwood Heights. And in the 3 years I've served, it's been a problem. The noise, the light pollution is affecting people's sleep.
Right.
The air quality, I keep getting asked, is this really being inspected? And, the vehicular danger related to not just that area, but throughout the city is something that my constituents tell me is of great concern.
Yeah.
So as we think about health, I appreciate all those areas that are tabulated. And so as a municipality, we appreciate that you know that those are challenges on the mind of constituents here.
And we often get looped in on complaints about the noise because we do respond to noise complaints. Gravel pits along with, like Kennecott, those are regulated by the state level. So we don't permit them, which a lot of establishments we permit, a lot of processing facilities we permit, but that is permitted actually at the state level. But I think, you speak to something that's really important. Having health at the table when zoning decisions are made, it's important because we've even get complaints from people that are right next to a restaurant, right? Like it's not even just the noise, it's the odors and all of that. So it's important for us to be known as being preemptive. We don't just have to come in when there are problems afterwards. And so, having people aware of that we have that ability and that desire to be at the table, I think is important. But yeah, appreciate that that's over the years that I've worked for the health department, it's continually, we've had complaints about that facility. So
Thank you.
yeah, sure. Yeah,
Well, thank you,
thanks.
Dorothy. I think most everybody knows I sit on the board for the County Board of Health.
Yes.
I think it's not a surprise. Well, when Dr. Dunn left, I think it took some of us by surprise, me at least it did. But, Dorothy has come in and just done an unbelievable job. And I think everybody probably expected that. You were intern for a bit, but have taken over the role. And I've enjoyed with, my experience learning about what the county does in this great department and how many people they help. It's amazing how many different things that this department does. I was in a shop, sold tobacco to somebody they shouldn't have, and I sat on a little board to review an appeal decision for that. So it's amazing all of the different things that they do. But this department is run well and has great people inside of it. So I want to say thank you
Thank
again.
you.
My role is coming to an end sometime this summer. So we'll get somebody else appointed to have a turn to learn about what this great department does. But thank you again for coming, and I hope that our city will be extra dedicated in communicating what you do and how our residents can participate and take advantage of all that you do. So
Yeah, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
And if you think of ways for us to be, our word out there, please let me know.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I will not miss the 7:30 meeting on that. Once a month, but that's okay. No, I'm kidding. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 4 on our agenda. So staff and myself have had the opportunity to meet FAO Management. FAO Management took over the Mountain America Credit Union building on 30th East, and they have come in with some design and development opportunities for a property on 30th East, and so including the building that they're currently in. We have asked them to come in and to give us a presentation on what they're looking to do and to have the full council hear some of their ideas. And so we're excited. So Farzad, we're grateful for you to be here. Larry Christensen is with them as well. Looks like you might even have some more people with you as well. We'd love to learn about, but we'll turn the time over to you to go through your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the time. Thank you, City Council members. We're excited to be here. As Mike mentioned, we occupy the Mount America Credit Union building, and I'm here with our neighbors next door, which you're familiar, Market Street Grill, Eric and Elson Taylor. They're the owners of Market Street Grill here in Utah. They flew in from back east and from West Coast just to be here for this meeting. We're excited to present this, and thank you for the opportunity to hear our proposal.
I don't know if they knew, we held our retreat last week. We do an annual retreat, and we held it at Market Street Grill in your upstairs room. We love eating there and having meetings there. So
Thank you. We appreciate that. And yeah, absolutely. And in my previous life, I owned a bakery here in this state, been a resident of Utah for nearly 50 years. Way before most of you were born, and sold my company a few years ago, and now we have a fairly good-sized development company that we are developing various commercial industrial properties in Boise, in Utah, Spanish Fork. We have a huge project going on right now, West Jordan, West Valley, and hopefully soon in Cottonwood Heights. What we would like to propose is, I don't know if you have our building proposal on your screen or not, but we
pull that up. Yeah.
That's a great location. It's certainly, lots of nice offices there. And as office building have become a little less occupied and more people work from home, that area where the current bank building sits and the adjacent parking to it that's owned by Market Street, we thought it would be a great location for a high-end luxury condominium to come in. And we've utilized Airbia, which is one of the top architecture firm in the state, have done a lot of the project throughout the state of Utah for the last several decades to design the type of project that we would like to build here in Cottonwood and take advantage of the location, obviously, right off of I-215 going downtown or east and west, as well as the incredible views. I think this project will add great tax base for number one, but a mixed use of mainly condominium, luxury condominium, but also some retail or commercial space on the bottom floor. The unit, as it sits now, can house up to about 230 units with a 3-story parking structure underground that allows each unit to have 1.5 to 2 dedicated parking spaces, as well as some common space for the commercial below. And we think that this will greatly enhance, the housing needs that's needed everywhere, but mainly house a lot of the professionals that work doctors, nurses at the university or the hospitals or, so anywhere in the valley because location is terrific. The outdoor, the trail that runs by it are all the greatest amenities that everyone is looking for nowadays for today's lifestyle. So that's what we would like to do. So we're asking for a special development permit or, zoning in order to proceed with this project.
Great. Go ahead.
Oh, I
Councilmember
just-
Highland.
As far as height, are you going to be about equal to the height of the master control building that's nearby, or are you going to be taller than that? Do you know?
7 stories.
Do we know, Mike, from anywhere in Cottonwood Corporate, what the max height is?
They're 6-story buildings. I think they range in height based on ceiling heights, but between 80 and 90 in that ballpark. So this looks to be a little bit bigger, not drastically. It is more stories, but they're residential stories, which is probably a little different than those office buildings.
Could we get an estimate of how much higher? Because when I actually drove over there this week to kind of look at the site, and it seems like it would be perfectly reasonable to put a building up that's at, about the height of that master control building that's nearby. Maybe 1 story doesn't seem like too much, but I just don't want it to be out of character. I want it to be able to fit what's there.
Yeah.
So Mike Johnson, do we have, can we get
We can
the
pull that,
heights?
yeah, especially the master control was built prior to Cottonwood Heights, but the Cornerstone building was permitted in the city, so we'll have permits for that. We can pull
Yeah,
that.
because it kind of depends upon how far down you are in that's kind of a gully, right? That little ravine. And so that would be nice to know.
Part of our parking will actually be underground.
How much of that will be underground? So 2 levels up plus 7 stories? 6 over 4. So you're talking 8 stories above ground.
Being, kind of a luxury high-end condominium, we feel that it's absolutely necessary to have higher ceiling in every unit, starting from the bottom. And certainly when you get to the top penthouses, we definitely would like to have the height. But when I look at where the housing is to our south, we are really way below them. I don't think that's going to really affect them much. And right directly across from us, most of the buildings are on the hillside, so they'll be far above us. So to take advantage of also the view a little bit for the top units on the luxury condominiums, that would be a key feature of having a little bit of city view as well as the mountain view that's on the east side of us.
Yeah, I had noticed that too, that I was kind of curious about how that would affect the homes that are there on that bluff right to the south, if you'd be blocking them. No?
I don't think so. We're quite a ways down from them. I think we'll be at this.
Go into that parking lot where it's just to the south of us. You can tell it kind of drops down. You can even see it from 30th East. It drops down, and that kind of goes into that ravine where the river bottom is.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful to have some kind of site staging. I don't know quite if that's the term I want, but I think that my concerns fall also with what this does not only for existing residential areas nearby, but because that trail is so highly valued by all who live in Cottonwood Heights and utilized by many, many people from around the city, I'd like some sense, I don't know if it can be erected to show height. I mean, literally, whether you're on the paths, the multi-use paths, where might it create shadows? As we look at these initial thoughts, it's great to to talk about, you know, feet and that, but I think this is this would, like, how many units is this?
It could be up to about 230 units, but when I look at the trail, I've walked that trail, the area where our plot is at, it's all covered by tree. There's not much of a view you could see from the trail. Further down you can, and further up you can. And certainly the trail is one of the key features for us in this condominium because
Well,
everybody likes to be near a walking trail.
I think it'll be wonderful for your residents, and I think it's our responsibility to think how this is going to affect all those who utilize that trail and are in that area. And so that's what I'm trying to see this through the viewpoint of, what this will bring ultimately, within that area.
Certainly, I mean, I appreciate that point of view, but there'll be your residents too. These are condominiums for people to live in Cottonwood Heights. And I think the trail is there for public to use, especially the Cottonwood residents to use. And so when I walk that trail, the trees are ample. There's not a whole lot you can see when you're walking past that Market Street lot line that you go by. On both sides, the trees are pretty tall and pretty high. But as you get further up and down, there's opening that you can see the view. So
Trail from this photo is to the south, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can you
yes.
put the cursor on it, Mike? Yeah.
correct, yes. You can see right there where the creek runs right behind it. Behind the pool is on the south side and the trail on the south and curves around and goes right around there. Yeah.
See.
Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
And may I ask another question? I've parked across the creek, taken the bridge over to Market Street. What happens to them, that overflow Market Street parking?
And I think the plan is that they have already secured parking across the street. And there's already a sidewalk that's in place for people to walk across for any overflow parking there.
So across to the south of Market Street.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think you talked about some of the amenities. Do you mind talking about some of the things you have planned?
Certainly, I think amenities, as we've done the market study and talked to the lots of the big players that have developed these type of, not quite as luxury as ours. The biggest thing that everyone wants nowadays is a gym and a spa. Obviously, there's going to be pool, jacuzzi, and a really, really nice gym for them, as well as pet area and a great lobby that is going to have, we're hoping that to have some kind of a spa business in there that the residents can enjoy as well as, public can enjoy and bring that to bear. Obviously, location is great. Obviously, views are great. Logistically is a perfect place, but the type of residents that are going to be there are mainly the, young professionals, whether they're doctors, nurses, lawyers, so on and so forth, and that they want to have access to these type of amenities. And so that's going to be a big part of our main level project.
What kind of square footage? Can you describe a little bit more about the units that you plan to?
1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom penthouses, mainly, most likely 3 levels of 2 bedrooms, what we call the regular 2 bedrooms, and a little bit, larger 2 bedroom and a luxury 2 bedrooms that would have, a little den or an office also to them. So very few 1 bedrooms, some in maybe what we call awkward areas, corner areas where the space is 700-800 square feet, but they're going to be typically about between 1,400 to 1,700 square feet for 2 bedrooms and about 2,000 to 2,200 on the penthouse and the 3 bedrooms up on top.
Have you thought about restricting rentals in your HOA? Are you going to allow short-term rentals and the like in this particular building?
Well, we've talked to several people that do studies on those things. Obviously, we are not going to do anything that's like a short term, anything like that. But these are units for sale, but we'd like to have our owners be able to lease them if they want to on a long-term basis, 6 months or longer. We want to have the kind of place that it's the owners that actually manage and run and own the place and take care of it. We don't want transient this or that coming.
Will you actually deed that a percentage of the building, a percentage of the units are owner occupied?
Our plan is to have majority owner occupied, yes.
By deed?
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry, we're peppering you. This is so interesting. What's in the middle? That looks so intriguing. I love that there's this design where you're going to have light. So is there a courtyard in the middle? Okay. You're doing a pickleball court?
Amenities
prepared
are
for
a
noise
big deal,
complaints.
for us to make sure that we have the type of things that people are looking for nowadays and strictly for the use of the owners though.
I don't say that facetiously. I'm serious. Be prepared for noise complaints.
Well,
85 decibels.
but city council is always, invited to come in membership, so.
No, I don't mean from us. I mean from the residents who
Resident-
hear a constant ping all day long. You either need to somehow soundproof those units that are on those
Yeah.
bottom few floors. I mean, that sound is going to ricochet off of every hard surface in that middle.
So this is just a design, preliminary design. When we talk to the people that, consultant that do this, obviously noise is a big factor for them. Security is a huge factor. Smart home is a huge factor. And not having, just anybody come in and trash the place and be in there for weekend skiers coming and just somebody that runs it. So we are very cognizant of that stuff. Obviously, it's a huge investment for us and want to make sure that I am a condo owner in 2 different cities outside Utah, and I'm well aware of all the things that can go wrong and do go wrong in a condominium, and also the type of HOAs and the owners that are in it just for the money. As a development, I believe the mayor and you guys have seen our operation, what we do, and I built things the way I want to live in it. I want to use it. That's very, very obvious in all the projects that we're doing. We've turned a lot of heads in this state from some of the biggest developers on how we are doing things heads and shoulder above the big names in this state. And mainly because I've always been an owner, operator, owner, user of everything I've built over the last 30 years. And so this won't be any different than what we've done. And I assure you, this is going to be an incredible project and incredible add to the city.
I want to assure you that that was not to protect us. That was a cautionary tale to protect you.
Sure. No, believe me. We've talked to attorneys that are very, 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 very in-depth in HOAs and things like that to make sure that we have a solid plan in place. As I said, I've been in 2 of them for 25 years, and we actually manage all of our properties, and we have tenants of all kinds, national tenants of all kinds, big and small, in 17 different locations in this state and a couple of other states. So very, very familiar on how to manage things.
What kind of price point do you anticipate putting them on the market for?
It's really hard to tell at this point because you got to get to where it's at. But in order for them to pencil in 700,000 to about $1.5 million, depending on the square footage and the location and the views and all of that. Yeah, we are anticipating this to be north of $75 million in cost of the project.
I just like to add, when I found out about this, I'll just say it, I was really excited about it because of the fact that location will really help out some of our commercial businesses across the street.
Mhm.
and then also be able to help with those hotels across the street as visitors come to visit some of these folks that live in this
Certainly.
establishment. So-
I definitely think it's going to add to that whole thing across the street. It's just, um, location is great. I really think traffic study for traffic on the roads and all of that is going to fall within all your, compliances. And it's really going to add an incredible building to Cottonwood.
So I'm going to ask Mike Johnson a question, but before I do, let me ask you time frame. What do you envision for, if we were to be able to create a zone or agreement to allow you to build? Tell me what your timeframes are looking like.
Well, I mean, our time frame is we are going to get on this as quickly as possible. We've already spent quite a bit of time in what you've seen already. In terms of how I have developed my other places, I can tell you that about a month and a half ago, we had a big meeting in Spanish Fork with the Economic Development State Utah director. We had the city economic development guy, we had the mayor, city manager, we had the inland port director and their people there, and they came strictly to look at our project. And at first, they didn't know exactly what they were looking at. They kind of just a broad view of, okay, somebody else is building a bunch of buildings down there. And these are people that have been dealing with this for the last 20 years, massive developments all across Salt Lake City, north area, and in the Northwest Quadrant, and so on and so forth. And they were blown away at the speed in which we developed 200 acres with 650,000 cubic yards of dirt, roads, moved power line, put utilities in. We did all of that in less than a year. They said they have never seen anyone, I don't care who they are, to do that in less than 3 to 4 years. We move fast. Every project that we've done, we have another 2 major building in West Valley, 300,000 square feet. We are about 5 months into it. By this June, we will have both buildings with all the dirt work and building the road and public works and utilities, all that ready to go in just about 12 months. Couple of reasons is that we don't finance, so we are not at the mercy of investors and all of that. Most of all the project that we have is just financed in-house by myself. And secondly is, I just, as you guys notice, we don't let up. We are constantly, working with the city to make sure that, everything that comes in gets pushed through. And I have an incredible track record in West Jordan, and Salt Lake City for the last 40 years. Built businesses there with 550 employees. And my architect there, who's built quite a few of our facilities for us, and every project that we had was, as soon as we got approval, we would push forward to do it. Obviously, with this one, it's going to require a lot of investment in getting it to where we know how soon we can build it. But that's why we're here. We want to make sure that we have your blessing and your, your commitment for zoning, and so we can proceed with that. But this gentleman here flew in from back east. They're ready to go too. It's a joint venture between FAO and their firm, and that owns the Market Street. They own Chacaramas. They own quite a bit of properties around the country, and so they're very interested in doing the same.
Great, thank you. I think, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, Matt, real quick, Councilman Holden can't get on the Zoom.
Let me jump back over, sorry.
Well-
Okay, I will call him. I have sent him the link a couple of times, so I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll reach out to him.
So we mentioned in our meetings, Farzad and Larry, that we do have a sensitive lands ordinance that we'll need to look at closely with. I think it's mostly probably riparian with this, right, Mike?
And floodplain.
And floodplain. Yeah. Okay. But so Mike, now the question is, the options for us to consider. I think they could probably go to PDD. Could we work through a development agreement? Tell me what you see as the best case scenario for if
Yeah.
we were to move
Good
forward?
question. And I think that's part of why they're here with this concept, because there's not a straight pathway, no matter which pathway they take.
Current zoning is,
Current zoning is ORD, Office Research Development. Obviously, they run into issues there with the actual use, but also with the building height and the massing proposed. A rezone to any of our, whether it be a mixed-use zone or multifamily zone, those all cap out at 2, 3, sometimes 4 stories, but you're talking 40 feet, not something of this magnitude. This is not in one of our PDD areas, so that's not a great option unless we amend the PDD map and go through that process. So it's either reconfiguring an existing zone or creating a new zone on the site, or going down the road of a site-specific development agreement concept that goes through the same process. It goes through Planning Commission, public hearing, goes to City Council, and it ends in a development agreement between FAO and their team and the city. That's more of a negotiated process, but the review is similar. We're just not reconfiguring existing zoning districts to do that. That said, we haven't done any sort of staff review of this yet, so that would be if the council's open to this concept, my first recommendation would be to kind of, start that review process, get some preliminary civil construction drawings, and start screening this property for things like sensitive lands and, stormwater retention and storage and traffic impact and all those things we look at on any development application. We would need to start that. We just don't want to do that if this option's completely off the table, understanding this is kind of a unique approach to development.
great, good answer, thank you.
One other point that GSH has been the entity that has done all the geotech for almost everything in that entire complex, all the offices. So they, as far as water, the creek, all of that goes, we're confident that that's not going to be an issue at all for in terms of geotech.
Would this site inhibit or go into the setback requirement from the creek? Or was,
Possibly. We would have to look at it, and with the floodplain there's going to be a process of analyzing where the groundwater is, especially with subgrade parking. It's a pretty technical review. It would need to happen regardless of, if this met zoning and they were just applying, they'd have to go through the same process anyways.
There's a 30-foot setback from the creek, and this more than complies with that. And also, as far as the groundwater goes, like I said, GSH has said that they have done all the study on every piece of that parcel, including Market Street, and groundwater is not a problem.
The groundwater is about 40 feet down, is what is shown.
Okay.
We don't see that as a big issue.
What is the sleds? I was thinking it was 50 feet. Is it only 30 feet for sleds?
The riparian setback?
The setback from the creek?
I would need to see that there's that table. I don't have the answer offhand, but it's based on development type. Certain things like parking lots and certain amenities have restrictions as well, and they change based on what the amenity is in terms of distance from creek. There are some that are, it's a 50+ foot setback for some intense, commercial uses.
And you said, just maybe the last question from me, but the bottom level, you have planned for a retail level, you said that
Yes.
the ground level, okay. And how much square footage is that offhand?
We really haven't put a square footage to that, depending on what it is. It's not going to be anything like a Chipotle or Subway or anything like that. That requires a lot of parking. It'd be more of the spa type of things. It would be more things that, a few people come and go at a time for parking restriction, and also the traffic that goes into it. So currently we're looking at about 10,000 or so is, I think, what's been set aside for that, but that could change a little bit.
Some of that bottom level too, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, are we not doing townhome stuff that would come out on it? Yeah. Could be that option. Yeah, there's an option for that. Like a townhome off of the front.
So, yeah, it's just these front, I'm just gonna walk them from.
Sure.
Right here. Two-story, right?
So when you say retail, that could also be office. I mean, it could be like an insurance agent. right? Or just, I mean, something that's low.
See something that maybe kind of fit with it, but yeah, it could be an insurance agent or we want to keep it to where it's not a heavily trafficked area that isn't going to be disturbing.
One of the things that I am encouraged about is I think a project like this would only help the town center. More, density we have closer to getting into our, town center that we're gonna, project we're looking to start very shortly as well. This would be, I think they would enjoy that amenity as well.
Well, I'm as encouraged about what's across the street with that commercial that seems to kind of be in decline.
Yeah.
The Zions Bank building was.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Well, very intriguing, Farzad. I did from the first, the very first time we talked, I was like, oh yeah, that's not going to happen. But then as I thought more about this, and I just I felt like this might make sense, and it's not going to restrict people's views anywhere really. The commercial buildings being to the east and south, and so I'm glad that we've gone this far, and I'm glad that we've engaged now the council, and we will. So as far as we know, Mike, so next steps would be an official application. Do they need something from us? I think maybe if there's an issue, if there is a single issue that might be the height, and I don't know if there's any willingness on your end I guess maybe if we're within 10, 15 feet of what's there, that was kind of our mind that we wouldn't go over that. So I know that maybe we're a little bit over, but that would be an interesting thing to, I guess, address. But any thoughts?
Ultimately, whatever direction this goes, it's going to be legislative in nature. It's going to come back through you. So if there's a willingness at a concept level to move forward, we can work together with them to initiate a, application process to start doing that preliminary technical review. And maybe that will answer some of these questions that are being posed. Certainly that will help from a staff standpoint, us understand the impacts of a development like this, the height, that kind of thing. And then we can come back after we do that review to another council session before we take off and go down any planning commission public hearing direction from that point.
I just want to add one thing. These type of parking structures cost somewhere between $40,000 to $50,000 per stall. And creating to where every one bedroom will get one, two bedroom will get two dedicated parkings, but as well as having some for guests and traffic, puts this project at the kind of dollar price that needs to have at least 220 units in order for it to pencil in, and particularly the high floor unit, which would be the premium floor, in order to bring in the kind of dollar that it takes to do it right. And one thing you don't see is the details of the surfaces that we're using. These are very, very quality stonework. It's not stucco and some various material. They're going to be very high-end material that we'll use to build it. And so as far as the height goes, we've gone back and forth, not just on the number of units, but see what it's going to take for this to pencil in. And the fact that it's that many stories also requires a lot more concrete, possibly hardly any, lumber. In order to get the bigger windows, you almost need to be a lot more steel, a lot more concrete, and therefore to reduce a whole floor, especially the most premium floor, could almost kill the project. I can tell you that at this point. But I think in our preliminary discussion, when we looked at who's in front of us, who's to the south of us, who's to the north of us, this doesn't really affect anybody in terms of the height of the building to block their views. And so that's one of those things that we've really looked at it, because both for cost-wise, coming down one more floor, we can do a lot of things that would make it cheaper. And we could use cheaper material. We could make things smaller, but in order to get to that A-class luxury condominiums, we need to get to the number of units that we have, the square footage that we have with such a small land to get there. So just,
No, that's good information.
I guess I'm still, interested to know, is it an unreasonable request to do something that will help put not only our mind at rest, but those that are, looking at this project, to do some kind of a abbreviated scaffolding? I'm not talking about creating a building, but I've seen it done in other places where view shed is extremely important to the community, where a pole is erected and it has a fluorescent ribbon at the top, and it is, maybe there's 3 of them in at corner locations, but it gives a sense of where that height really does land. Yeah, it's certain, corners of the building to,
Sometimes balloons are used for that purpose, helium balloons.
yeah. I just think it would be helpful, to advance your project, that there would not be confusion over how this compares with the, other buildings in the vicinity.
Trying to think who would have an issue with the view? Is it directly to the south? I mean, I'm trying to think, there aren't anybody to the east or to the east at all, right? Just
nobody to the east, nobody to the north, and nobody to the west. The south, up on the hill, there are a few homes that we haven't done a measurement to see how high they are from where we are at. And we could certainly do a drone, probably, that can get to certain height and show the view from there and also from their side. But I honestly don't know exactly where this is going to land, and if it's going to block 30 degree of any home in that area of the golf course, for instance, or all the office space or the parking lot below. But certainly in the 360-degree view that any of it would have, this would be a tiny bit of it. It's not going to block an entire 180-degree view of anybody that I know. Zion's Bank has been empty for several years now. Nobody going in there, and I don't think it's going to affect their view because they're only 2-story. Everything across from us on the east side are all single-story, and I think that's Holiday, single-story commercial, and all the hotels are above us, quite a few of them, and to the north is just the office buildings, and frankly, other than the medical one, the rest of them are half empty all the time. And I don't think they're even blocking their view. They still have the mountain view.
I think elevations is something simple enough that we could put together with Andrew and the civil engineer. That would help.
Well, even Shane Topham's suggestion of a helium balloon with the, that goes up. And anyways, aesthetics are obviously important, and I'm not suggesting that you haven't thoroughly thought about it, but obviously I'm also trying to make sure that I do my due diligence and have really thought, what this can mean to our community. There's a lot of great economic opportunities, and yet also quality of life is so important to all of us here.
100%.
I think I put some words to that, and that's in design, solve visual problems visually. And so I think that's kind of what we're asking. We can kind of think about it, but when you put a drone up and you go, it's going to be this high, you go, oh, okay, I see that relative to this and to that. And it's hard to know until you actually see.
Yeah, we can definitely get you something like that. No problem.
Be awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
Well,
the
this has
presentation.
been great. Thank you, Farzad, Larry, and remind me your names back there. Okay, well, great. We love your restaurant. Yeah, we frequent it a lot, and this has been great. We're excited to have you start the process with Mike, and I think we're all an encouragement to I got a text from our council member online saying, boy, this looks amazing. So we think that it has some really good possibilities.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
For your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5 on our agenda, which is our staff reports. And we'll start with item 5A, which is an EV/bicycle parking ordinance discussion. And so we're going to turn some time over to our Community and Economic Development Director, Mike Johnson, or is it Ian?
I was going to turn it right over to Ian Harris.
Oh, Ian, so you're the guy, you're the man.
guy.
So yeah,
I
never
can pull up the
mind. We'll
presentation
go
that we-
straight to you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So Mike, I'm joined with the Zoom. I can pull it up, but
Oh, well, I've got it right here.
okay,
So either way.
I'll leave it up to you. Okay. Alrighty. So if you want to advance to the first slide, just to give you guys a bit of background for kind of where this is coming from. If you'll remember, back in 2023, we received direction from City Council to draft EV readiness and bike parking ordinances. This kind of comes from our master plan for sustainability, the ISAP, the Interlocal Sustainability Action Plan that Samantha DeSeelhorst kind of formulated in association with our community, Holiday and Mill Creek. EV adoption was referenced in there quite a few times. And EV readiness, which is what this project is about, is generally defined as having the electrical wiring and the junction work complete in a parking stall during property development without having an actual charger in place. That's what was done with our city hall. So we had all the wiring complete, and then once we got a grant from, I can't remember the agency, but we got a grant to install those chargers that are there now. So that came in after the fact, and the cost was significantly less than it would have been if we had to do all the wiring after all the work for the parking lot was completed. So that's kind of what EV readiness is. There's significant cost savings there. So after we initially did some research, we partnered with Utah Clean Energy and a cohort of cities, Ogden, Moab, Summit County, Mill Creek, to assist us in researching and drafting these ordinances. We presented you guys some early concepts in summer 2024, and we received direction from you, if you'll recall, to pursue more incentive-based options, kind of using a carrot approach rather than a stick. So we've come back to you with some options that different cities around the country that are comparable to us and some that are larger than us use for incentives, and that's what we're presenting here today for you. We went through this research last time, but we just supplemented it with some more recent research. In 2025, a lot of experts predict that the number of EV and hybrid sales will jump to 25%. So that's about a quarter of all cars sold on the market. I think that's new cars. And you may have seen in news that sales of EVs slowed significantly through most of 2024. I'm not sure what that data is for hybrids. I think they didn't slow quite as much for hybrids. But they did jump significantly back in Q4 2024. So the market—
Everything jumped in Q4 2024 because of the threat of tariffs. So everything across the board. No, I wouldn't just say it's because they're EVs. It's everything that could possibly be imported went through the roof in Q4.
Okay. So yeah, that was a trend that we saw in Q4 2024. Obviously, I'm not sure how that's going to go in, the next few quarters with the threat of tariffs, but that was something that we noticed. And we noticed that automakers are continuing to invest in developing new EV and plug-in hybrid models. So this was another thing that we went through in the last time. There's just significant cost savings if you do the EV readiness wiring before you install or construct a parking lot versus after. You can save about 5 times. So that's kind of where this research and this intent to draft ordinances comes in. And then now I'm just going to go through the incentive options really quick. Yeah, sure, Mike.
Sorry, 500 new construction, 2,500 retrofit. Oh, sorry, it's 300. That's
Yeah,
really small.
300.
Okay.
So Mike, do you want to jump to the next slide? Okay. So we'll just go through 4 of the different incentive options out of the 5 that were outlined in the memo. So the first one is an expedited permit process. This is something that other cities have done. All of these incentive options are stuff that other cities have done. So we have examples of this. This is stuff we can draw on. These are just options that we wanted to put in front of you. This would be, what this would look like is we would establish a policy of faster review turnarounds for building or land use development projects that incorporate EV readiness as part of their project. Based on research, we don't believe that this would entail any state code violations. Salt Lake City offers an expedited permit review for a double fee, not even, it's not related to EVs, but that's something that they do. So we don't believe that would be in violation.
So Mike, how would that, I mean, with the pace of business that we currently have, how, I mean, was that going to put extra?
This would only apply to brand new development. It wouldn't be, we don't get a ton of brand new development through the permit office. It's a lot of additions and tenant improvements. This would be feasible.
And then the next one that we see is a parking requirement reduction. This is one that we think is less feasible. Our parking minimums are already quite low compared to neighboring cities, and EV usage doesn't reduce parking demand, but this is something that other cities have done, so we wanted to bring it to your attention. What this would look like is drafting a zoning text amendment that would exempt developments from parking requirements or reduce parking requirements by a percentage. So again, we don't think it's as feasible, but we wanted to let you know it's an option. Another one that we think is a bit more feasible would be a percentage of building permit fees or land use application fees being waived or refunded to applicants for incorporating EV readiness into their project. This could be scaled for development size. And before adopting this, we would be happy to provide you with more information on the impact to revenue from building permit fees. We don't believe that impact would be extremely significant. Like Mike said, we don't see a lot of new development, large-scale projects coming through, but we would be happy to provide you a more detailed study prior to drafting new fee policies. So this is another option that some cities are doing. And then the last one that we wanted to talk to you about today is a sustainability menu. This is one that's kind of gaining steam in communities of different sizes across the country. This is a common way that a lot of cities encourage or require sustainability elements in new development projects. So this would be like a menu that you'd see adopted into code and would entail a list of options for applicants to select from. EV readiness could be one of those many elements, along with stuff that our code already addresses, like water-wise landscaping, outdoor lighting best practices, solar panels, et cetera. This could also be limited to targeted areas within the city that are, in the process of new development, like the gravel pit, for example. We think this is moderately feasible. This type of code update would entail a bit of a wider scope than the other incentives. But it's something that's kind of becoming more and more popular across the country. So we wanted to bring this to your awareness as well. And then I'll just kind of sum up our recommendation and then kind of turn the time over to you to have the discussion. But a survey that was taken all the way back in 2007 found that density bonuses and expedited permit processing were the most preferred out of all the various incentives. A lot of cities across the country have adopted those incentives since then. The two that we believe are most feasible are a permit fee reduction and an expedited permit process. A lot of major cities have adopted these, including Chicago, San Diego, and Cincinnati. Prior to implementing any of these, as directed by City Council, we'd be happy to conduct a more detailed study to illustrate the impact that each would have. So I'll turn the time back to you.
Just a couple notes from my perspective. The concept of a permit fee reduction is not dissimilar to the Flip Your Strip program. There are resources out there that don't require but incentivize property owners to convert, landscaping and things like that, and the expense of that is subsidized. The idea of the sustainability menu does exist in a way in our PDD right now. That's part of the PDD application process, is to provide a list of sustainable design practices that are being implemented. So the Walsh property development, one of the ways they achieved that was through a bunch of efficient construction and windows and, insulation ratings, but also they installed, this was of their own proposal, vehicle chargers and not just EV readiness, but the actual chargers and a bunch of bike facilities to comply with that requirement. So there's precedent for this concept of incentive existing and being successful.
I know Scott gets the cold sweats when he hears fee reduction. Any concern there, Scott?
I don't know the specific amount of money that this all brings in, so, I can't imagine it's massive, but, so.
What that would look like, the building code mandates a building permit fee that wouldn't change, but on top of that, we don't charge impact fees, but there's a zoning review fee. It's a couple hundred to, several $100s for large projects, and that could be waived. Again, I don't think the impact would be drastic based on the permit activity and types that we see.
Well, I think this is Did you have something I was going to say this, I think this has a lot, this is what we asked for. So if you remember, I know the council remembers, I had a lot of hesitation about requiring this from new development. I think it's a market type of a issue. You know, is the market going to support it? And I think that it will, but I actually don't have any problem with some of these items. I think they would be great, and if they encourage them to do that and take advantage of it, I think that would be positive. But council, any other thoughts from you all?
Yeah, I think that having it these things fall for new construction, is fine. How would this impact us on our Hillside project? We're gonna have to incur some cost, and I don't want it to look funny to our citizens. We are getting fees waived. Thank you.
So Hillside will be unique because we own that. We won't charge ourselves permit fees for city projects. You know, and we didn't for City Hall, for Public Works buildings. So for
Okay.
public projects, there's not that permit fee element. So this would, you know, we can certainly target these types of things if that's what we're interested in that project, but you know, fee reduction or a permit process waiver probably won't apply as directly, given that it's a city project.
I just think about optics on this.
Of course, good question.
There's a lot of discussion in the legislature about density bonuses, for sure.
Yeah, that's an option, and that's an aggressive option, and I think people would take advantage of that. We didn't necessarily recommend that as a first step, but if it were something that, you know, that the council's interested in, you know, we certainly could explore that. Just seems like a pretty far jump to go from, you know, you get a density bonus if you just wire stalls for electric vehicles. You know, if you were going above and beyond and, you know, providing chargers and all these other incentives, then maybe, but the jump felt too big to strongly recommend that, unless that's something the council's interested in.
Don't you think that's where these are going to be used, is higher density, I mean, apartment, condominium places? And that the market would actually, like, there's already an incentive for a developer to include them. Do we have to incentivize that?
So, yeah, I get that. So I think that the question is, density bonuses to me is height. So, because they're already going to do the math density that they think that they can. So to me, it would be, are we going to let them go taller? But any thoughts on
Good
that?
question. I will say where we see our density projects, it's either PDD or mixed use. They have, I think, both 35 unit per acre permitted densities. I don't think we've gotten close to that on any of our projects. That's a pretty high density, but if you pop it up to 40 or 45 and you keep the, you know, the height limits and the development standards the same, you know, maybe that does, you know, create some incentives there without resulting in a drastically differently designed or aesthetically, you know, a visual appeal of that building. So we can certainly explore that.
No, I think what you've just said has convinced me that maybe not. I appreciate that you've looked into all this. Expedited review, if it doesn't put a ton of extra pressure on the staff, seems like that would be really enticing to a developer.
I think I mean, Mike, you can speak to this a bit better, but generally our turnaround is faster than what state code requires, but having that guarantee might be enticing.
We have done that. Again, precedent for that on like EDC Utah projects that are targeting Cottonwood Heights, you know, big national office employers and businesses. We have offered that before. So again, it's something we've done. We've got an established procedure when that arises. It didn't happen often, but we accommodated it.
This would apply to both commercial and residential, right?
It could, yeah.
How do we compare on this with other mid-sized cities in Salt Lake County?
We're kind of at the cutting edge of this. Salt Lake City has really been the one that's taken the first leap of faith on EV readiness requirements for new development. Summit County is kind of a municipal body of a similar size to us. It's, you know, different scope, different part of the state. I believe that they received a positive recommendation from their planning commission about EV readiness requirements rather than incentives, and their city council will be voting on it soon. I'm not as attuned to where Mill Creek is at in their process, but they're working on EV readiness requirements as well. So this is something that a variety of cities in the valley and across the state are looking at implementing.
Did Salt Lake City go to requirement or incentive?
They did requirement. They may have incentives that I'm not familiar with that they've adopted since then. That requirement was adopted back in 2023.
So to your knowledge, Salt Lake City and Park City are the only two cities that come to mind that have laid down requirements.
To my knowledge, in Utah, yes. There's a lot of similar cities to our size in other mountain states like Nevada and Colorado, but in our state, those are the two main ones that have been kind of at the front of this.
Well, the
I
reason
also
I,
know, sorry, Councilmember Rell, many cities do offer over-the-counter solar permits. We do not. Ours is a plan review process. So there are cities that have expedited, over-the-counter permit procedures for residential solar projects. So that would fall into that category of what our other cities doing.
I'm sorry, I don't really understand what you're saying.
So when a home
Over the
installs solar
counter.
panels, yeah, so in some cities, when you want to install solar panels on your home, you can go to the city and you pay a nominal fee and you walk out with your permit. That's an over-the-counter permit. There's no plan review process, there's no processing. You just apply and pay and you're good. We do not have that here. So we have over-the-counter permits for things like air conditioners and furnaces and some of those basic mechanical. Our solar permit process is still, you submit an application, it goes into plan review and you hear back from us at the end of that review cycle.
Well, because we do have a sustainability goals set for the city that was all determined before any of us took public office, I see it, and I know that I differ from apparently the council majority here. I would like there to be requirements, not just incentives. So I want to make sure I'm on the record for that. My preference would be that it's requirements.
I'm not excited about rebates. We already have a tight enough budget. But the expedited review is probably the one that I think gives somebody something.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think staff's done a good job. I think these are palatable to me anyway, and capital renewal feel the same way. Great. So I would recommend that we move forward.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
That's helpful direction. Thank you, council.
Thank you guys very much.
Okay, item B under staff reports is we've talked about this obviously in our last meeting. We have a proposed agreement on our agenda to vote for tonight, which is with Governance Sciences Group, Inc., DBA Flash Vote for public input polling. So Jared, I know you've done a bunch of research on this and we've got some issues. I don't know if we'll get to where we feel comfortable to move forward with the vote or we vote to turn it down, but I'll let you get this started.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, we did, after last time's discussion, we went back and made some phone calls and we actually had a presentation from another survey group as well. I was thinking that maybe they'd be similar to Flash Vote. They're actually a different format. However, I know there's still some concerns with the length of the contract and kind of the format as well. So I'm really hoping for some discussion here tonight to kind of get some direction on it. I did ask Flash Vote. Last time it was mentioned that what if we just went with a year contract? They said they could do that. There would just be an additional $3,000 kind of setup fee, but they would lock in our price for 2 years for us if we decided to renew anyway after those 2
Don't
years.
they have a $3,000 setup fee anyway?
It's waived if you sign up with the 3 years.
Okay, so the 3,000 is included in the 9,900
Right, and then
contract.
I
Okay.
did ask them if they did just kind of one survey. They said it's really about the same price. It's just kind of rolled into they don't really have a single survey package pricing. The other vendors that we've talked to that actually do the larger surveys, you'd be looking at $10,000 to $15,000 for a single survey. So it all kind of comes out about the same.
So for the 2-year period, how many surveys would we get? Would it be 6?
The contract's 6 a year.
6 a year?
And they're smaller surveys. They're usually 3 to 5 questions rather than your longer, more intense surveys. So, and usually trying to focus around a single topic, but.
This could be satisfaction with city services. It could be opinions on speeds. It could be opinions on short-term rentals. And I know there was a discussion about whether these things might, if we don't follow exactly what the survey says, are we going to get accused of not listening to the citizens? But I was intrigued that Kirk Cullimore, I just actually took a long survey. He put out a survey because he wants to know what constituents' priorities are for the legislative session. And then he asked for additional feedback. And so I mean, I'm still somewhat of the view that having some feedback is better than none. And how do we tune out the noise of just maybe a few really loud voices? How do we try to mitigate and hear what other people think? I know I mean, I could be persuaded one way or the other, but I really would like some public feedback, and I'm comfortable with the process, having reviewed it. Their expense is setting up the group. It's finding all the people who would take these surveys, or at least if there's 600 or 700 people and you get 500 response. That's pretty decent, especially if it's a 3 to 5 question survey and not going to take 10 to 20 minutes out of your time. You'll get a better response rate.
Yeah, I think it's advantageous to have it be 3 to 5 questions. I think that the surveys that we did through the Y2 Analytics were long, and I think they led us to believe they were going to have a lot more people participate than actually did end up participating. So I think more numerous surveys that are shorter and on a certain topic would be more useful, and we would likely get better participation. Do they use the same group of people for more than a 6 or 12-month period of time? How does that work?
Yeah, so what they actually do is they try to establish a pool, if you will, of people that they actually ask the same. So when they're asking for this pool of people, we'll push it out through all of our channels, trying to get people to sign up to just be part of this group, so that they can, we won't tell them what the topic is because we don't know what the topic is on the survey. So, and then that pool just continues to grow over time, and they geolocate them, so we know that they're coming from the city, what part of the city they're coming from, so that when you go into the survey, you can see and break it down by geographic location.
Well, I know Y2 Analytics used, I believe it was the list of registered voters. So when you say we, maybe I don't, maybe you didn't mean we, the city of Cottonwood Heights, would feed names. Where would they get their list of names?
So we'd push it out to the city however we can, and they will reach out as well, and through their channels. I'm not sure what they utilize, but they'd also ask us to post it and get people to sign up. It's not, we don't send it out to just a specific group. They're sending it out to the community as a whole in any way that we can outreach to the community.
But that's not, I mean, I think what made it scientific, if we're going to use that term, is that it's not advertised and pushed out. It is, people are reached out to. I think the Y2 Analytics, it was every 6th or every 5th registered voter was reached out to. I mean, it was done in a methodical way. It wasn't advertised and then the people that responded were part of the pool.
So I asked them about this because I had the same concerns. And what they do, they do push it out. They get an initial pool, they look at it, and then they say, where are we deficient in the demographics and in maybe the geographic areas of the city? And then they start calling and finding. And so when this pool gets established, they know that it's representative of the community, and then that starts to grow. And if it becomes up to a point where it's not representing the community, they know how to.
But it's
fix that.
people volunteering to take the survey.
There is an opt-in process, yes. So it's initially, that's what it is. And then they go back and find out how many other people they need to add to make sure that it represents the demographics of the city. So it seems, I hear what you're saying. I had the same concern, like, because if you are not random, right, the randomness of it can skew the results. And we don't want that. You don't
So
want.
what demographics do they consider? Do they consider socioeconomic, or do they strictly consider geographic and then male, female?
All of the above. Yeah. That's.
So
I
when
drilled
somebody
them about
applies
that.
to be part of the survey, are they committing to 6 surveys a year? I mean,
They're committing to being contacted so that they'll receive a link by text message, and then they could choose to fill out the survey or not. And so when they have the results, they'll say, our pool was 800 people and we got, 612 responses or whatever that is. interested, what is, I think, most important to me is that they can distinguish who took the survey from a link versus if the link was shared. And that's really important because when we have a hot topic, you could end up like sending out a survey, say, and some people who are highly interested in that topic might send it out to all of the other people who are highly interested in that topic. And then you get a skewed result because you're sharing the link. One of the committee members on the short-term rental committee wants us to do a survey. And my hesitation with that is that it could be sent to people outside of the city who could then weigh in on what they think of short-term rentals. We don't want that. We want to know that the people are in our city. I wish I had them on doing this demo, but if you wanted to push this off again, we could do another demo with the council.
Yeah, and they've offered that too as well. That was one of the things I wanted to point out tonight, that if there's questions, they're willing to meet one-on-one. They're willing to come to a work session if we want to schedule them to, not come, they'll be online, but to be at a work session to answer these questions too.
So one of the things I did was I reached out to Brooke DeSosa, who's the Sandy City Council, because Sandy uses this. And one of the things that she highly, highly, highly recommended that we do if we decide to do this is that we have some kind of a policy in place that either a small committee or something, so that there's somebody making this decision about the topics and reviews the questions. Because otherwise, who's the one who's really approving the topics and how these
Well, that
results,
was
these
one of the
surveys are gonna be
problems I
done.
had with our Y2 Analytics survey. The questions were put together. I disagreed with a number of the questions. And it was a struggle. I think, to quote my council member Newell, he said, "I'm getting survey fatigue" by the time the year was out. It got rather stressful and elongated. And so I think a process that figures out how to, decide the subject matter and the, 3 to 5 questions that are included, takes some oversight, and that the council needs to be able to say, yeah, this is ended up to be, what we're trying to ascertain, or no, it's, run amok, or, but it's very valuable to get
So
feedback.
let me get a sense of where the council is with the costs. So correct me if I'm wrong, Jared. We can do a 3-year contract with 10,000 a year. So we're looking at $30,000 over a 3-year period to do 6 surveys a year. If we went to a single year, we'd be looking at a cost of 13,000 to do 1 year, to test it out, to do 6 surveys, and then to create that pool. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And then they've also committed to keeping the renewal for the next 2 years at 10,000 if we choose to renew.
Goes to
Right.
continue. So can I get some sense of the cost effectiveness of going forward with this?
Yeah, I'm willing to actually try it for just a year, because what if it's not what we wanted? You're taking a little bit of a risk by spending an extra $3,000. Brooke was willing, by the way. She wrote the policy and was willing to share that with us. And she said it was a 4-member committee that required 3 to agree. So she was pretty adamant that there should be a policy, and I'm completely on board with that.
4-member committee comprising the council?
4-member committee, there was a staff member, there's a council member, there was a legal member, and I can't remember the 4th one, but she said it was a
Somebody
committee that
from
was
the
agreed
mayor's
upon.
office, I think.
What's that?
So I think somebody from the mayor's office, a council member, somebody from
that's-
the council office. and
now
then
that you say
legal-
that, that's-
Yeah.
Maybe we could even consider rotating through a council member, a different council member for each survey, depending on what the topic is.
Let me be clear too on how they formulate the questions. They actually meet with us beforehand on the survey, and I've gone through a couple of these with them. They meet with you, figure out what it is you're looking to get out of this survey. They actually then write the questions and then give them to you for review. So they go through and they take out the bias, and they're trying to make sure that the questions are asked in the right way to get the information we're looking for. So
I mean,
even if it's
we would have the ability to edit that though, right?
Kind of.
kind of, they still make sure that they're not biased questions.
Yeah.
So they will go through and make sure they're as neutral as possible.
They're not going to
against
risk
the
their
questions.
reputation
Right.
for, that you you have some input, but they still have to be unbiased. And as you know, survey questions can be heavily biased.
And you can mix. the
There's a
survey,
review
I
process,
mean,
but it's not that you're going to tell them exactly how to ask the question.
Right.
So the option you said would be to have them come in and do another,
Yeah, if we want to schedule them for a work session, I think they were pretty open to.
I think I'd probably feel a little more comfortable seeing what you saw before voting to move forward. So if I guess, so we've got this as a voting item tonight. So Shane, we just need to continue it. Or what if, because if we're gonna, our next meeting, have them come in, and then if it's 2 meetings away, should we just tell me what our options are, Shane?
Well, I think probably if you want to have the discussion in a work session, you can continue it for 2 meetings or something like that to give plenty of time. At least 2 work sessions to do that. I usually prefer to continue until a date certain.
So we just stay on as a voting item for the next 2 meetings, and we just.
Well, no, you could, if you want to continue it until 2 meetings from now, why then it wouldn't show up next time, it would show up the time after.
Okay, that's it, okay.
Let me ask too, would it be appropriate then to also have them make include in the motion to work on a 1-year contract instead of the 3-year at this point? Is that kind of what I heard?
I think that's for sure where I would be.
I'm
Does
very
that need to be
comfortable with
included
that.
in the motion then, Shane, or is that just something that bring back?
No, well, if you want to do that, why that's fine. I think that we also understand what the council wants, so it'd probably be okay not to even mention it if that's where the council is.
Okay, I'm good with
We'll
that.
do that.
And specific, that kind of was a longer demo. I hope they can do it in a shorter time, but specifically to help us understand how they put the pool together. And then like questions and show us some of the surveys and the different results that we can see.
45 minutes.
Yeah, and
Probably be there.
yeah, it'd be good. And I'll talk to them about going through, they don't really need to walk through a full demo, I don't think. I think we
No.
understand where they're coming from. I think there's just more questions that they need to clarify.
I think I'd like to hear from them, Cypher. Sharing of surveys, things like that will give us some clarity.
Sure.
Great.
Thank you for the consideration. I think this could be very positive if we do it right.
So this evening, I'll look for a motion to continue then. Okay, great. So moving on to item 6, we have a review of calendars and upcoming events, January 3rd to January 30th. If you haven't been in our lobby, the Asian Arts and Culture exhibit is ongoing. You can come to City Hall between 8 and 5 to look at this great exhibit. January 25th, so which is what, Friday? Or that's Saturday, is the Chinese New Year celebration from 10 to 12, and that's here at City Hall. And then February 25th, the short-term rental town hall meeting at 6 p.m. that is being held here at City Hall. And that is it for the review of the calendar. We do have an item to discuss in a closed meeting concerning property acquisition. Is there anything else that would pertain?
And also, I think you had a personnel item.
And a personnel item as well. Thank you, Shane. So I will entertain a motion to enter into let's see, what's the correct wording? Recess from our work session, go into a closed meeting, and then end our business meeting at the same time as we close the closed meeting. That works, Shane?
And the work session, not the business meeting.
Yeah, work session. Blah, 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 blah. Okay.
I'll make that motion to end the work session and go into a closed session.
Do we end the work session or do we suspend it? How do we do that?
You would move to go into closed session. And then at the end of the closed session, you would move to end the closed session and go back into open session, then
back
open
to
the
the
open
work
session and adjourn.
All of that.
I will second whatever that is that we understand we're doing.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, thank you.